Okay, welcome everybody. We're here again. This is so exciting. Baruch Hashem, we are back with our life skill series. And our goal with life skill series is to really give the skills to women when they need them and even before they need them. And that way they have time to process, to intake, to really make it their own. So that's one of the reasons why we do every year we try and do a series with midwives, with doulas, with different speakers about birth, about pregnancy. Even if someone's not in that stage yet, now is a good time to think about it. Now it's a good time to process and to get that education, which is going to give you blessings in every way, shape, and form in your life. So tonight we have the great zchus of having my new really good friend. Her name is Tania Zirulnik, right? Perfect. She graduated with her bachelor's in midwifery in Lima, Peru. And I love that I can speak to her in Spanish too. And after she moved to New York City, she learned more about midwifery. She became certified and licensed to practice in New York State. And now she is a wonderful doula that is beloved by many people here in the community. So I'll pass on the baton to her. Thank you so much.
Do I need to decide?
Yeah. That works.
I hope. Okay. Hello.
You're good?
Yeah. Well, hello everyone, and I'm so happy to be here tonight and get to meet all of you. And I'm just probably going to talk a little bit first of what I do as a midwife. I'm not sure if everybody knows all the work we really do. Like, I'm specifically a home birth midwife, but midwives really see women from the time they start planning on having a baby, or just even saying like, hey, I want to make sure, my body's healthy, and, I'm starting to get to that point where I may get pregnant at some point, and maybe I want to have a physical exam, and that's what I'm here for. And I care for women from that point until they're done with their babies, right? Which could be, who knows at what age, but so I specifically do home births, just because that's really my passion and that's really what I enjoy doing. But I also have been able to continue caring for the people that have given birth with me. So I like to always have conversations with my clients or my patients about what is important for them to care for, what are they specifically looking on each visit. And so I'm happy here to answer any questions that you guys may have, but I'm also happy to just talk about why there's this focus on working with a midwife. You guys need to fix that? No problem. Technical difficulties. Okay, good.
We're good.
So now it's not the happy faces me. I kind of got distracted and forgot what I was saying, but basically the midwife. So as a midwife, first of all, I like to educate, because I think that's one of, it's a very powerful tool, first of all, to know about our bodies. And, again, as women, whether we are maybe thinking one day we'll have a baby, or maybe we're just like, I'm an adult now and I would like to know more about my body. So
it's also easier to know before it happens, like what to expect.
Correct. Absolutely. You will get into any of that so much more prepared because you have the information, and then you'll be able to make better decisions. I like to work a lot on education. So usually my appointments with my patients are, I think we spend more time talking. I think we spend more time talking about, life and fears and concerns rather than the actual physical exam, right? Because a physical exam is just quick. Oh, you're healthy for the most part, which is what also midwives do. We mostly work with women that are for the most part healthy. Same with the pregnancies, right? The pregnancies, low risk, healthy pregnancies. We can get more into that later, but because we support everything that is physiological. And what's that? That means the way your body is meant to do it. It's its own way, just when your body just follows the flow. And so with that, all right, let's get everybody, because otherwise I get distracted. All right. Okay. So you see, I lost my train of thought again. Physiological. Everything that is physiological. So we want to know our bodies, to know how our bodies work. That's to know the physiology of our bodies, right? How do they work? Whether it's, I'm not sure if my menstruations, my periods are normal because they come sometimes every 30 days, sometimes they come 3 months. So we talk about it. Yes, so let's know what is normal and what is not physiological, right? And so, and then when somebody gets pregnant, again, we talk about how your uterus is going to change and grow a baby, and all the different things that are going to happen to the body in a physiological way. And from there, we start talking about how the baby's going to grow, what changes are going to happen in the body. And then we prepare and talk about the birth. And sometimes those are one of the most concerning things for people, especially when it's the first time, right? Because it's like, I don't know what to expect. Is it going to be very painful? Is it not going to be very painful? And how is the baby going to come out down there? And so this is why it's important to talk about this. And I feel that, I'm going to give myself credit because I think I do a good job of giving my patients time to talk about all these things, as opposed to, going to a quick visit. I'm not trying to trash doctors, but, sometimes those appointments are 5 minutes and there's no time for education, right? So again, going back to what I was saying, the first principle is education. Education is the pillar for everything. And if you guys get all the information, all the education, then you're going to feel empowered to go into, say, my pregnancy and my birth, and I can do it. And there's not going to be so much fear about it's going to be painful or not. And it's like, I know my body can do it. Therefore, I'm going to be okay. I don't know if I'm rambling here. Anybody has any questions so far? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, so would you guys want me to get more into pregnancy, or tell me how you want me, if there's an interest in how I should continue talking?
Maybe you can speak about a little bit about what do we do, maybe as like not married ladies. What can we do to prepare our bodies for when it comes to time to like?
Perfect.
And then maybe you can go to like married ladies.
Okay. All right. I think that's a really good.
Another thing I'd love to know is, what are things that you find like people don't know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we're gonna keep talking here all night. So, for people who are not, in the process of having a baby just yet, but it's important to, first of all, know how your body works. This brings me back to what I was saying, knowing your cycles, your period, getting to know, okay, my cycles are 30 days long, and I know usually from what I have talk to my patients like, you guys are pretty good at, charting it and writing it down. But more than that also, it's just really knowing, are my cycles normal? So what I was saying, like, are they 30 days or are they 6 months long? That may not be so normal. Like, so we'll need to see what's going on there, right? So knowing your cycles, having a healthy lifestyle. This means eating healthy and moving or exercising, right? I'm not asking anybody to like go to the gym and all that, but just moving, just going for walks, because all these things are definitely going to have an impact when you get pregnant later on, right? So you want to start, imagine if you're going to move to a new house, you wouldn't move into this house if it's all dirty and just falling apart. You want to build it, you want to fix it a little bit before you move in, right? So it's the same thing. Before that baby moves into your body, it's let's clean up the house. And so and on top of that, again, education about, okay, how does someone get pregnant, and when is it that I'm supposed to get pregnant? When am I fertile, right? Because there's so. That's a good question. By educating yourself, right? So, okay, can I get pregnant when I get my period? Is it always on the 14th of my cycle that I get pregnant? Is it always on one day that I can get pregnant? So this really varies by every person has a different cycle length. Everybody has different moments when they can ovulate. And so this is why, again, it's so important to know when you're uncharting, when are your periods coming, right? So we can get into a whole lesson about about when you get pregnant. But for me as a provider, it gives me, when somebody comes and says, listen, my periods are not normal, gives me so much information to know when are your periods coming, charting, write it down. So whenever you have these questions, you can have with all this information, and that's how we can help you. So that's, kind of like when you're thinking, one day I'll get pregnant. So you have time to work on it. And then once somebody's just, okay, I'm pregnant now, what do I do?
Can I ask a question before
Yes.
we get to that?
Yeah.
What things are good to document and chart? Like, what are the things that we should be?
So again, when your period comes, and if there's any like very marked symptoms, that could be something to just kind of look into. Like some people, for example, experience pain when they're ovulating, right? And that's actually a physiologic pain. That's just normal. That's because, there's your egg that is coming from your ovary kind of like ruptures a little bit and it causes pain. So that's actually normal. And that actually gives us information. Oh, you had your period on this day, you had the pain 2 weeks later, most likely that was your ovulation, most likely that's when you got pregnant, right? So little things like that. But then when we're trying to assess somebody who is having very abnormal periods, okay, what are things happening? Maybe you have bleeding in between periods. Maybe you have severe pain in between periods, right? Maybe you have really heavy periods, 7-10 days long. That's just not very normal. And it would be great to assess and to correct that before trying to get pregnant. Okay, so those are the things that I would suggest.
How do you correct it?
Well, it will be a whole lab workout that we'll have to do, checking blood levels, doing ultrasounds, different things to see what seems to be the problem, and then based on that, how we can correct it. So there's no one treatment,
Yeah.
It's just individualized, always individualized.
How long is what's the range of normal for how long cycle should be?
It could be as short as 26 days or as long as 32 to 44 days. 32 to 34 days. That is still considered normal, as long as it's constant, right? So one person always has their period every 26 days. But if somebody's having periods 26 days and then 34 days and then back to 34 and then 37 and then 26, That's also not so normal, or I'm saying regular. Could happen, but ideally we just want to see that consistency. Okay, so should I move on to when you get pregnant now? So once you're pregnant,
Sorry.
yes.
Oh, no.
Oh,
When you have a chance, I would like to ask if you
about
when you're first pregnant.
okay.
Maybe let her start and then see if I can.
Okay, so again, because if you guys educate yourself, then you would know, let's say you learn when are your fertile days, when you get pregnant, and the initial symptoms that you would have when you get pregnant. So a lot of people first trimester just don't feel really well, right? There's a lot of nausea. Whoever got pregnant, nausea, morning sickness, very common. Yes. Right? So a lot of people are like, I have to eat very healthy in my first pregnancy, and sometimes it's impossible, right? It's yeah. I survived on mac and cheese my first trimester. Yeah, don't feel bad. So here's the thing. So it is okay. It is normal to have some nausea and even vomit at times in the first trimester, as long as you don't lose too much weight. Okay, so when you start losing more than 10% of your weight, then we are talking about something called hyperemesis gravidarum, which is not very healthy for your pregnancy and needs treatments. Okay, so there's also things that can help prevent or help with the nausea during pregnancy in the first trimester, and sometimes I give those tips to my patients. And yeah, maybe my theory is that your body is going through all these chemical reactions and it just needs so much fuel. And what is the main source of fuel for your body? Carbs, right? So we're inclined to just eating whatever feels just filling carbs, right? So salads, people are usually not big fans of salad in the first trimester. Even protein, people don't feel like eating chicken or meat. It's like, gross. So they just go for the mac and cheese. So yeah.
Is it healthy?
I mean, assuming, remember, right? We're talking about preconception. You had a healthy preconception period, right? You even maybe started taking prenatal vitamins. Now you're pregnant. So those first 3 months, if you're not eating very healthy, at least you had already prepared your body with those good nutrients before that, right? So I always talk to my clients, try your best. But if you can't, then don't stress it so much, because as you start to get to your 12 weeks, things start to turn the corner. You start to feel that you can eat a little bit more. Sometimes the secret for some people is the more you eat in the first trimester, the less sick you will feel, right? So if you go to bed, if you have your dinner at 8, you go to bed at 1 in the morning, and then you wake up at 9 in the morning, that was more than 12 hours without eating. Guess what? You're going to wake up nauseous and feeling very sick, because it was too many hours that your body didn't have all that fuel, right? So you have to constantly be eating. I tell my patients, have a granola bar or something on your nightstand, so that when you wake up to pee, you have a few bites of that, and 2 hours later have more bites of that, so that you don't go so many hours without carbs. And that seems to help people sometimes. It's not the solution.
Me, I would drink milk like after supper. Like before I went to bed, I woke up to see my baby. Like always drinking.
There you go. Great.
Milk, and then I noticed the difference.
Yeah. Okay. Milk.
Milk is better than water. Yeah, because it's protein.
Yeah, it's protein. It has sugar also. So.
I drink like high fat milk.
Yeah.
Regular. Yeah. Regular.
Yeah.
Yeah, I drink Bethel.
Oh, yeah, like.
That's organic.
That's different than just like any milk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Organic, but yes.
That is well different. I don't know.
I think it's like low temperature.
Yeah. So yeah, and we talked about that. Right? So eating.
Also, another thing is, I noticed that if I have a very healthy diet, then it's easier for me.
But how do you manage to have a healthy diet if you were nauseous? Like what comes first, right? The chicken or the egg? So, so yes. So that
If I force myself enough, then it will get easier.
there you go. Okay, so you were forcing, even though you were probably not wanting to eat, but you were like, okay, I'm just gonna try. Whatever I eat, I'm gonna make sure it's healthy.
And then when I get in a bad cycle of eating pizza or whatever, then I'm in trouble.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I'm saying even if I start out at pizza or whatever, then it's just gonna be
Yeah.
harder to eat the chicken.
Yeah. So some people are able to do that, right? Where if you really are capable of just kind of forcing yourself to eat healthy, then you may be able to do it. But some people force themselves and they end up throwing up because they force themselves, right? So it's like you have to try different things, see what works for
What's the
each person.
craving? Like when people are craving when they're
So I believe that cravings are, in a way, it's your body telling you that it's needing something, right? So if you are craving something really sweet, probably your body is asking you for more calories. Not necessarily have that ice cream, but it's asking you to have more calories, right? Because something like ice cream is going to be high in calories.
people know that when they're
Well, they don't always know that. They don't know. Yeah, exactly. So this is something that we talk about in appointments, right? That is not just like, oh yes, you're craving this, therefore go eat it. But maybe pay attention to what your body really needs. I have sometimes the most the people that have feel the most guilty about their cravings are people that are vegan, for example, and then they're like, I'm craving meat. What do I do? And usually, with vegan or vegetarian people, sorry, I don't have anybody against being vegan or vegetarian, but you need to keep your iron levels, and people need extra supplementation when they're vegan and vegetarian for the most part. And so if they're craving meat, it's because their body's telling them you need more iron, and you're vegan or vegetarian.
I'm curious. I saw a post by Lindsay Mailer's comparing the two placentas, like one of a vegan, like exclusively vegan diet, and one of what she calls a traditional diet, with a lot of meat, and you totally see the difference when she's like.
I have not seen the pictures. I have not.
You've seen a difference with vegan, like exclusively vegan clients. If you see a difference in the placenta.
I cannot, right now I'm just thinking of 2 placentas from vegan clients that I just come to my mind, where I remember my assistant and I being like, oh, that placenta looks not very healthy. But then again, like, it could just be coincidental. I don't know. I don't have anything against, somebody being vegan or vegetarian. Everybody owns their own choices. But I have also seen, not very good placentas with people eating a traditional diet, right? Which is what I see the most, right? Like, I have, most of my clients have a traditional diet. Very few will have a vegan or vegetarian diet, right? So I don't know if I can really compare. I don't know if it would be fair for me right now to just bring that up. But I think in general, vegan and vegetarians may need a lot more care with their nutrition and supplementation, for sure. Like iron supplementation, that's the biggest in pregnancy, which is my next point. Iron in pregnancy, it's very important. Iron is what makes your red blood cells carry oxygen throughout your body. If you're anemic, if you're low in iron, you are going to feel tired, you're going to feel short of breath, you're going to feel Like you need to take a nap every day. I mean, yeah, pregnancy makes you want to take a nap many times a day, but you know, like more just like weak and tired. So that's another thing in pregnancy. Iron. What else? What were the other questions? I forgot.
I just made a comment.
Sure.
Just because you were saying like about cravings, like you don't like I notice in myself, like when I'm craving something even now, to just be in tune with why am I craving this or what am I craving. Just be aware. Like the other day I was craving salmon. I'm like, okay, like I just am needing that protein in my body. Like that's something you could start now, is noticing what your body's telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't wait.
Exactly. Which is again, right, going back to what we were talking about, physiology. It's just a natural way of your body telling you you need this. And I think at all stages in our lives, whether we're pregnant or not, it's very important to listen to our bodies. I think that's like the most important lesson you guys can maybe take from tonight. It's listen to your body. Is there something that just doesn't feel right? Then seek care and find out why that is not, why that doesn't feel right. And it may be that you need to slow down and, you know, like you were saying, like, okay, what could this mean? It's like, you know, if we try to understand the meaning of a dream, the same thing, right? It's like, what is this craving? And so yeah, it's very important to pay attention to that. Okay, what else?
How much water do people have to drink when they're pregnant?
That's a good one. A lot. So it depends on the season, right? But overall, water is very important, even when we're not pregnant, right? And the thing about water also is that it's important that it's not just pure water, because sometimes, you know, people carry like these huge gallons of water. I mean, this is just one quarter, I think, but like, you know, the big jugs, right? Yeah, or even bigger than that. I've seen bigger than that, right? And the thing is, especially when you're pregnant, your kidneys are filtrating liquid faster, right? That's why you're peeing all the time. And it gets to a point when you go pee and your pee is just like clear. It's like you can't even tell on the toilet, is there pee there? So that means, all right, you probably reached the too much water point. So it's important to try different things. So have water, but also important is to have electrolytes. What is that? Sodium, chloride, potassium, that you can find, for example, in energy drinks. Why do they have them in energy drinks? Because you exercise, you sweat, and but when you're sweating, you're depleting your body from electrolytes. So you need to replenish that. All right. So in pregnancy, you're sweating a lot. You're also creating a whole human being. So you also need those electrolytes. So combine water with sometimes they even have these powder electrolytes that you can throw in your water. The drops. Have a banana. Bananas are rich in potassium. You know, add a little pinch of salt to your water. Sometimes I had somebody in labor. She was in labor for many hours, and then all of a sudden there was this little bowl with pink salt in it, and she just kind of like started. She was like, "Oh my God, this tastes so good!" And I was like, "It was summertime," and I was like, "She must be dehydrated, right?" And so she just we're like, "Okay, let's start, you know, really hydrating you." So again, I'm listening to your body. It was telling her something. So, in the summertime, you know, New York summers are pretty hot, so make sure you guys are hydrating really well. In the winter time, we don't feel as thirsty, but we have dry heat in our homes, and that also dehydrates you, just so you know, right? So I would say in average a liter to 2 liters. Oh, well, depends on the size of the cup. I'm not sure.
Oh,
That's it.
That's like 1.5. That's 1.5.
Okay, so
So-
less than that.
wow.
You can have less at the minimum,
Oh,
right?
More than that.
Or
Okay.
so like 2 of those will be 3 liters, right? So, but again, it depends on your activity level. If you went for a run, you're probably gonna need more than that, right? If it's 95 degrees outside, you're probably gonna need 3 of those, right? So, but on average, I would say 1 to 2 liters.
When do you start drinking? Like, I'm saying pregnancy is 9 months. So when would you say like to start increasing that intake of water?
So usually you're going to see these changes, these extra requirements on your body starting your second trimester. So that will be around 13 weeks. That's when there's an increase in calories and you're gonna get more thirsty and all that. It's just kind of tricky also because you start peeing a lot when you're pregnant. So you're like, I don't want to drink more water because I keep peeing, right? And so it just kind of becomes this thing. Yeah, exactly, especially at night. So some people start to get dehydrated because they don't want to drink at a certain time, but it is important to kind of keep up with that. And then again, like I said, maybe don't drink as much water, but have a banana, have some watermelon, like, these things kind of hydrate you also. Honeydew, like summertime, we have all these fruits. They're also hydrating you in a way. Popsicles. The healthy ones, not the ones with a lot of sugar and colorant. So
There are some really good ones. I haven't seen them personally.
what, the popsicles?
Yeah, like some, I heard that there are like some healthy ones.
Yeah, you can make your own popsicles. I make my own popsicles for my kids.
Juice or something? Like, what are the juices?
Oh yeah, I do.
This is like the heart of the
pineapple. It's really good.
Ooh. Well, you want whatever you use for a popsicle, it's gotta be sweet. So you choose like sweet fruit to make a popsicle because when it gets frozen, it just it's not gonna taste as sweet as if you just choose something that's not very sugar. You know what I'm saying? But it's better to use natural sugar, so like fruit sugar, than adding sugar to something. So when you buy the things from the store, usually they have added sugar, right? So you want to use fruit to make your popsicles. It's just, at least that's how I make them.
Oh, I do. I just made watermelon popsicles.
Yeah, watermelons are pretty good for popsicles.
You just
They're very sweet.
No, I should have. No, I blended it.
Yeah.
And then the liquid I put into those little
Yeah.
baggies. And then they just
Just watermelon.
Just watermelon.
Yeah.
Watermelon is excellent. It's great in smoothies in the summer.
Oh yeah, totally. You can also use mango.
Like to eat it, but in
Yeah.
smoothies, I love it. It like adds a lot of like hydration.
Yeah. Mangoes are also, like, if you start having the mangoes go very ripe and mushy. My kids don't like to eat mushy food, so like you can just kind of blend it and just throw it in and make it a popsicle. Yeah.
Can we talk about postpartum?
Postpartum, that's a big one. I wish I knew more about postpartum after I had my kids, and I was already a midwife. But postpartum is kind of like this dark side that nobody talks about, right?
What about postpartum and like you're doing a home birth? Like in the hospital, you said like a day or 3 days, they take care of you. Like,
But yeah,
home birth is like, okay, you birth, okay, turn, bye.
but you see, you make a good point, because here's the thing. I have had people that had their first baby in the hospital, and then when they have their baby at home, they're like, what was the most annoying thing? Having a nurse coming in every 3 hours to ask me if I was okay, to ask me if I was nursing my baby, and to take my blood pressure. And like, they will come at 1 a.m, at 3 a.m, and at 6 a.m, and that person could not sleep. So, there's also that.
Unless I told them not to do that.
Maybe, right?
Listen.
But then you also get the people who had a baby at home and they feel so great that on the third day they start vacuuming their homes, and I'm like, no, you need to rest, right? And so and this is why I think, in a way, we need to remember this whole like culture of the 40 days, right? And it really is hard for some people to do it, but I think postpartum is not just the recovery from the birth, it's the recovery of 9 or 10 months of carrying a baby, of the whole changes that happen on your body during that time. And so it just can't happen overnight. And not only that, I always say, when you have a baby, we should grow an extra set of hands, because right, like, don't we need extra set of hands? And so right? Because you're like having a boob, the baby, you're trying to eat, or maybe just grab the phone and you just can't. So, so there's so many things that happen. And first of all, it can be very lonely also, right? If you don't have the right support. I personally see my clients during the first week 2 times, and then if they need more visits because they're having challenges, say with breastfeeding, I see them more. But you have your body that is changing, that is recovering, that maybe is sore. Maybe you had a 2-day labor, or even just 12 hours, but it was pretty intense. So you're still recovering from that. Maybe you tore, so you have stitches, so you can't see, you just kind of sit on your side. Maybe you have hemorrhoids. I know it sounds very sexy, right? But it's the reality. These things, these are things that can happen, and this is why we should be in bed at least that first week, and everybody should serve us. Have people bring you food. Have somebody help you change the diaper, or maybe take naps. You should take naps if you had a baby, especially that first week or two. Like, take naps.
America lost that culture.
Yeah.
Yes, totally.
Like my great aunts weren't allowed to leave the house for 3
Yeah.
days.
Exactly.
Like what?
Yeah.
Borough Park.
I feel like they do it a little better than we do, by the way.
They
Our
do.
Williamsburg,
Yeah.
don't go to the bris.
They don't.
The
Yeah.
kids
Yeah.
get shipped out.
And don't they go to the house that helps?
The Kimpeter home.
Yes. Yes. So
That, and all the kids get just
yeah.
spread with these
The
neighbors,
cousins.
Yeah.
yeah, sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah, other people are, no, but other people are taking care of it. Yeah, but if you can't
Father.
hear some of them. Or even.
Yeah,
well,
well,
but I will
Father.
say, I will say that my system I just did with my last baby, I stayed in bed and I had one-on-one with each kid that came into my bed, and I got to spend time with them. I did not move.
Yeah.
They got that loving time in my bed without me moving. So there's
Yeah.
a balance. We don't have to go and pick up the
Yeah.
toddler and go make
Exactly.
dinner and whatever.
Yeah.
Like, we can
Yeah.
bond with our kids.
Yeah.
I think I did something similar, and also having like had my first 3 in a hospital and then afterwards switched to home birth. I remember when my oldest came to visit me after I had my second, and here I was in a pajama, like, and a snood or whatever I had on my head, and the setting that he would see me at home, he hadn't seen me in a day or two, and I remember seeing his eyes pop out, like, what is going on over here? And I translated as like fear, shock. I don't know. He was too young to talk. He was like 17 months old, but that's how I translated his, facial expressions. And then afterwards, when we switched to home birth, it became a big conversation of like, okay, but now I'm going to be in the house. And do I need help? Do I need to go to one of those Kimpeter homes? But yeah, then what's the purpose? How do we do that integration for the family? And I did find that one of the beautiful things is that after the baby is born, everybody can come and meet the baby. It's not like you brought this foreign new person into our life to disrupt our life, but this is something that came from us, with us, etc. Which point your other children are going to be there or not be there, that's an individual decision that each home birth mom makes. But for me, I felt that was a huge difference of like not coming to see mommy in pajamas somewhere else, and then the next time I saw her, she came home with that other child that now has wreaked havoc on my life.
Yeah. Exactly.
So then it became like, as we continued, it was like these ongoing conversations, and for me to have good conversations with myself, because I find that women, very often, it's not about what our husbands will do for us. It's, are we convinced and clear enough of what we need? And so, having those ongoing conversations with each child of like, how do I stay home, that I don't need to go to the Kimpeter home, that the kids can still be in their environment, that I can be in my environment and have the right kind of tools. And it meant the door is closed and you can come visit mommy once a day for a hug or whatever, like special visits, but I was not doing the shopping, cooking, cleaning,
Of course.
childcare of the other kids, whatever.
It's having postpartum support. It's postpartum support is key when you know, after you have a baby, because
How do you get it? Like, people are so busy and
yeah. Well, you know, this is why sometimes now people hire postpartum doulas, you know, which is kind of like, I know it's expensive.
in training.
All right, there you go. He's gonna get a lot of business.
Doing postpartum doula.
Oh,
Go for it.
Things that are
I think it is, yeah.
So
I'm happy
I'm
to help. You just have to make sure to let them know you help.
Yes.
It's like hard to ask for help.
There's
but
yeah,
people wanna help and you wanna
Because
know
the
what they should do.
postpartum stage
correct.
is so like, sad and lonely. And it just felt like much harder than the birth.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it just
exactly.
felt like you're on your own. Hey, like the hard part. Now it's all done and now it's all on your own.
Yep.
And mother-in-law leave, like they leave like after 2 weeks, a couple weeks, and it's like okay.
Yeah, like you're on your own totally, and it's kind of like one of the most vulnerable times, like because this is when you see people developing, you know, postpartum depression, all these problems, and so it's very important during the pregnancy to maybe build a community that is going to help you be there, that is going to be there for you to help you. And like Nahama was saying, it's like maybe there's people that do want to help, but you know, sometimes we don't know to ask for help, right? Sometimes we're like, oh, I don't want to ask that person to go get me food. I don't want to ask that person to go do my laundry. Like, just ask because we need it, because we can be doing all these things. And like Kaya was also saying, it's like have the conversation with your partner, with your husband, with your close family members. Like, I'm going to need someone to watch the kids. I'm going to need someone to keep that door closed, and for someone to think about who's gonna make dinner, because I just need to be in my bed. And sometimes I tell people, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna tell your husband like that this is what the midwife is saying. You know, like
Feels like doctor's orders.
yes, exactly. Yeah, totally. Because it if we are not offering this support those first few weeks, the postpartum recovery is going to be even longer, and it's just going to be, you know, forget it when you have breastfeeding issues, right? It's like, oh my god, it's even twice as long, because you can't even take care of yourself because you're trying to get this baby to gain weight. And I know also in the community, sometimes even having a breast, right, it becomes a very stressful thing for people who are having challenges with breastfeeding. And I don't know if this is kind of new to me, but seeing more lactation consultants also in the community, I don't know if this is a new thing or it's always been there. I've seen more of my clients being like, oh, I was able to see a lactation consultant. And so that is, I think it's one of those things where these days is becoming handy to know that there's a lactation consultant in the community. Usually with the first baby, sometimes not so much with the second, third baby, although sometimes they can surprise you. But you know, the first time you're figuring everything out, you're just, you know, the second time you usually don't tear, second, third, fourth time you usually don't tear. It doesn't mean that you're not gonna be sore, but it's really the first time where it's all new, you're sore, you figuring out breastfeeding, you're figuring out your new body, you're figuring out, how am I going to make it to the bathroom if this baby doesn't get off my breast for a second, right? Like how can I have a normal poop without, right? You can. I've been there, done that.
Right, could you like explain that a little bit more? Like you said, the first week in bed and then it's 40 days. So like how does that typically look? And like, so we know not to exert ourselves.
Yeah. So let's just say you got it all. So let's just talk about somebody who had their first baby, right? So you're recovering from maybe a long labor, you're sore, you got stitches, all of that. So I normally tell everybody, especially if you got stitches, you're in bed for 3 days.
Are stitches common?
With your first baby, more common than with any other baby. So if you got stitches, I'm gonna say for sure 3 or 4 days in bed. After that, you can walk to the kitchen. I mean, you can walk to the bathroom, of course, right? But don't be on your feet. Don't be, even for sitting, sometimes I recommend there's this kind of like inflatable pillow, has the shape of a donut, so that your area that has the stitches is in the air, so that you don't put too much pressure. And then, so by the end of the first week, more people are more mobile, so like they can hang out in the living room, in the kitchen. Nobody should be cooking at that point. Most people are going to go see the pediatrician on the second week. But I normally tell someone, if your stitches are still hurting, forget it, stay still in bed, right? I've had people whose stitches recoveries have even taken a second week, just because it was like, maybe a very deep type of tear, things like that. So sometimes they have to stay there that much longer. Another part of the recovery is eating super healthy also during your postpartum period.
It's so hard. I'm saying, like, because you're not going to prepare your own food. You're getting food
Right.
come to you, and then you do like brownies and
Yeah, well, let's make a list before they bring the food, but yeah, again, midwives orders, I can only eat healthy. Yeah, it's, again, going back to the protein, to fiber, vegetables, because you have to have good digestion, especially if you have stitches. You don't want to have hard stools, right? Like, you want to make it all soft. So important to have a very good diet. Again, we continue hydration a lot because you're breastfeeding now. So you actually need even more calories and more fluids when you're breastfeeding, more than when you were pregnant. Yes. Yep. So that's what it's a continuum, like you're still eating. So
Around the amount, like how many more calories do you have to eat?
I mean, eat when you're hungry, but again, like, make it a good meal, right? So like, have snacks all around that are not nuts or fats, like good fats, avocados, nuts, yes, you can, protein bars, or just any source of protein. Oatmeal, has fiber. So just, again, you're continuing eating throughout the day constantly. And then what else? You're still bleeding. So that was the annoying part, because the bleeding can last somewhere between 3 to 6 weeks, right? Now, the first week is more, the first 3 days is like a heavy period. Then it becomes like a long-lasting period for maybe another week. And the third week, it's more like on and off, depending on how much you're moving. And then maybe the next few weeks, you get some spotting. But there's people that will still have a good bleeding for the 4th week. And there's people that are still spotting by the 6th, 7th week even, right?
Does that have to do with that, like how much exertion?
Yes and no. So why is the bleeding? Because inside the uterus, right in here, imagine this is much bigger, but your placenta was implanted here. So when it comes out, it leaves let's say a big wound. It's an open, an area that is still bleeding. And so now it needs to heal. And if you're moving a lot, imagine, if you get a cut here and you keep forgetting and you kind of like keep reopening it, it's kind of like the same thing. So if you start moving around, vacuuming your apartment on day 3, you're going to bleed more, right? If you're resting, you don't bleed as much, but then you go to the pediatrician the week after, that day you may get more bleeding, right? And then you rest again and there's no more bleeding, and then you move again and it just kind of bleeds a little bit. That's why, right? So it's going to bleed because it has to, right? But it also depends on the amount of activity that you're doing.
I guess rest is a good incentive for going to the next one.
Oh. There you go. There's a goal there behind that. What else?
Could we talk more about birth, like
Uh-huh.
how to be calm, what to be prepared for?
Okay.
What
All right. Perfect. Let me just say one last thing about postpartum baby blues. Okay, so after you give birth, day 3, day 4 after you give birth, your hormones that got yeah, exactly.
I thought I was crazy when I was pregnant, but
No, yeah, you're even more crazy when you're postpartum. So they drop around day 4, they drop and just drop without notice. And yeah, and then you feel kind of like unmotivated and you're weeping and you just don't even know why you're doing that. And it is normal for a couple of days, for a few days, but not to the point where you just don't feel motivated to get out of your bed, or you're just constantly angry, you're just constantly upset, or you're obsessed with one single thing. Like little things like that, or more than that, definitely requires supervision or an assessment by a doctor. So if you ever hear of a friend going through this, or you yourself feel that you are just constantly feeling that way, and it could also happen during the pregnancy, talk to your provider. Okay, you guys need to bring it up. Okay, birth.
So like when do those signs, like after how long do those signs get concerning?
I would say, so it's normal for it to last, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. But if we see that maybe they could prolong longer than that, but just to a very kind of like it's winning, it's kind of going away. But if it's just consistently staying at that same intensity, definitely seek help. Okay.
What about like postpartum anxiety? Do you feel like you keep hearing the baby crying when the baby's not actually crying?
That's a thing. I'm not even sure if it's just when you have anxiety, like it just happens all the time. But the baby. So that's actually one of the ways that postpartum depression or even psychosis can manifest.
But I heard postpartum depression / postpartum anxiety can happen between in that whole year.
It can even happen, yes. So that's
like it can show up like 3-4 months.
Yes, that is true. Yes, so it is. So I was just talking more about immediate postpartum, but really postpartum depression can happen anytime during the first year after the baby's born. And again, it's not one of these things that just lasts a few days. It just stays and remains. And so it just whatever doesn't feel normal, or people tell you, I don't think that is normal, you need to seek help, because sometimes maybe it just requires talking to other people. That's the thing about postpartum. It becomes lonely also because you're all day long in the house with a baby. You're not talking to an adult. You're talking to a baby, right? And so you start to lack that human interaction or adult interaction. And that's why, you're like, all you're used to hearing is your baby cry, right? And again, if you have a baby, sometimes that is maybe breastfeeding is challenging or things like that, it could just create more of that cycle of just constantly just creating more anxiety because that's all you're experiencing. So it is good also during the postpartum period, once you start to feel better with your recovery, to have a community that you can reach out to and hang out with, right? Like just I don't know, are there groups for mothers, like baby meetups, mothers meetups, right?
Now there's the motherhood center also.
Yeah, exactly. It's very important that we're able to have other adult people with us to feel that we're not just lonely in this process. But yeah, anytime during that first year that there's this process of like you were describing, that should be looked into. Okay. Okay, so that's done with postpartum. Okay, birth. So preparation for the birth requires, from my point of view, education and support. And this is why, for me, the prenatal visits are so important because, again, we not only talk about how's your baby growing and the position and your blood pressure, but okay, what books are you reading to educate yourself about the birth? Unfortunately, we now live in a society where birth is like, oh my God, it's like anything can go wrong and it's so painful. And your water breaks and you're having a baby 10 minutes later, which is, I wish everybody will have that experience, right? So we need to re-educate our brains that birth is a normal physiological process that you go through to have a baby. And again, reading books, hearing stories about healthy births, pretty good stories, right? Because when you're pregnant, you're usually magnet to all the terrible birth stories that happen there. People in the street will say like, oh my God, I remember my pregnancy, it was so painful. And so you want to listen to the good stories. The other thing is I recommend everyone to have a doula. And if not a doula, someone that has been at births and know how to support people in labor. Because especially with your first baby, you know, we're talking, it could last 12 hours, it could last 24, it could last 48. The longest birth I've been at has been 4 days. So it could last that long, not all of them. So I don't want to scare you. I don't want to scare you because here's the other thing. The longest part usually is early labor. Okay, and early labor is when it's the first half, right? So if this is your uterus where your baby is, this little part here, this is what's called the cervix, right? And normally it's closed like this. Like if I look at it like this, you will see this. And this is what's going to open to 10 centimeters in diameter for the baby to pass and to go from your uterus into your vagina. Okay? Yeah, so there's a door. There's a door. So the cervix is the door, is the passage from here to here. That's labor. In labor. This is what happens in labor. Okay? Yeah.
It can start in like late pregnancy.
It can start. So usually not with your first baby though. So usually you start to dilate earlier with, you know, your second, third, fourth baby and after. But I mean, I'm saying textbook labor, right? Everybody's different. There's just don't take everything literally. But in a first labor, this has to go from here to 10 centimeters for a baby to come out. Now, the halfway, so 5 centimeters, that can last 12 to 24 hours, that process. And it doesn't mean that the whole time you're going to be like, oh my God, this is so painful. No, it's like your contractions are 20 minutes apart, lasting 20 seconds, and 15 minutes apart, lasting, 30 seconds. So
you have to stay awake.
no, in fact, you don't have to. I tell people, you feel that in the middle of the night, take some Benadryl, drink some wine, go to sleep. Don't even wake up. Turn the lights off. Don't tell anybody just yet. Take a bath. Like, try to go to sleep. Because you don't want to be so awake for it just yet. Otherwise, you're going to be tired. You're still going to be in labor the second night, remember? So, right? So you want to...
You have to like pace yourself.
Yes, exactly. So stay in bed, rest. The next day, they're still going to be slow. Eat. Breakfast time, have breakfast. Lunchtime, eat lunch. You need to still eat. Remember, this is the marathon, right? You prepared the whole 9-10 months for this. Now you're running. You have to have a good meal before you run the marathon. Not too heavy of a meal, but a meal, and you have to hydrate during the marathon, so you continue drinking fluids. And so I tell people, have a project. Maybe you want to bake something in early labor. Maybe you watch a long movie, right? Just things that allow you to kind of be distracted until you cannot be distracted anymore. And this is when the doula comes, right? Like you can, as long as they don't distract you so much. So I want people to still rest during this stage. So like if you feel like taking a nap, take a nap. So, but if you have friends that are talking to you and you're like, you may not take that nap that was so important, right? So the first time, rest. If you go walk a mile, that's not going to change the pattern of your labor probably. Early labor is just very autonomous. Like it just does its own thing. You can't usually accelerate it. Yeah.
People say like walking helps accelerate it.
In active labor later. So after you pass the 5 centimeters. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So in early labor, usually, and again, there's not much that we do, because this is also the time where your baby is being like, oh, maybe I'll turn my head this way, or maybe I'll turn. The baby is also working with you guys, right? Like the baby's not in just one position. The baby is rotating, going farther down, rotating again, like doing all these beautiful things. We don't want to pressure the baby. We don't want to rush the baby. Let's let the baby also follow its own flow, right? Remember, physiologic birth, right? So then once we pass the 5 centimeters, that's when things start to get a little bit more serious. So the doula comes and helps you.
Does it feel more painful? Like, is that what happens?
They start to get more intense and they come closer together. So now you're having contractions coming maybe every 6 minutes or every 5 minutes, and they're lasting close to a minute, right? So they're more like, you can't talk. You're like, before you were like, oh yeah, I'm having a contraction right now, right? Like, but now it's like, and so you're breathing until the contraction is over. And then you can continue talking until the next one comes and you breathe, right? But your doula comes and she's like, well, how about, maybe I massage you a little bit. Maybe you take a shower. Have you been eating? When was the last time you pee? All these things that your doula, so that you don't have to think about those things. Like have your doula help you think about those things, right? And then
What's the whole idea of construction and water breaks?
okay, I'm gonna get to the water breaking. So right now your water is not broken, right? The bag. So what is the water? Is the bag. Imagine a balloon. Your baby's inside that balloon, and the balloon is filled with water. So that actually gives your baby a cushion. So when the contractions are like contracting, they're not really squeezing your baby because there's all the fluid, right? In the hospital, they like breaking the water all the time, right? But because they're always like, okay, let's rush things. Let's, at home, we don't do that usually because we want the baby, again, physiologic, there's a reason why that fluid is there, right? To cushion your baby. And so
You can tell the doctor not to do that though.
you can tell them.
We have to do.
Good luck.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to know to tell them.
Exactly. Again,
Turn down anything technically.
You
But I'm
can, but it's so here's the thing. The thing is you're vulnerable at this point. You're having a contraction, somebody's trying to talk to you, asking you when was your last menstrual period, blah blah blah. You're like, let me, so yes.
Like a birth plan, like I use a visual.
Yes, you can have a birth plan.
Like, I don't know. I felt like they listened to it.
That's great. So there are, again, this is what I'm saying. I'm not here to trash doctors or hospitals. Sometimes you will find a good team, a good hospital staff that will help you with that. Sometimes they won't be as good to negotiate with. But I also feel like, yes, it's good that you have a plan ahead of time, because you're going to be in this zone that you actually don't want it to be interrupted, right? You don't want to be at that moment arguing with them. No vaginal exam right now. I'm like, hold on, I'm having a contraction, right? Like you just really want to be in your own zone, right?
Right. Sorry for asking, but do they say that you can give birth? Do they allow you to give birth? And then the position that you want?
I was like after 3 days of labor, I was like,
It's very long.
And I didn't even realize on my back, and then you're like, oh, you're back.
Someone was saying, I don't know if I was listening to a podcast or whatever, but they were saying like have someone advocate for you if you're not up to talking.
Yeah.
Have your husband
Your,
tell them,
or
like,
your
she doesn't
doula.
want
Yes,
this, or your
exactly.
doula.
Correct. So that you're not just being the one. Yeah, for
That's
sure.
why also the birth plan's nice, because like your doula knows, your husband knows, like
Exactly. Everybody's on the
everyone
same.
knows. So like, and even like your doctors know. So like, there's you have your support, and then the doctors already know. There's less resistance.
Yeah. Usually, hopefully.
Depends on the environment.
Depends on the environment. Yes.
Doctor.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
The day.
The day.
It's
Totally.
true. Some
Yeah.
days they're
And
like
your birth.
understaffed because it's like December 30th and like.
So I just had someone I transferred to the hospital because her labor it was just lasting too long, and this was completely unexpected. She had medication, so she had pitocin, which is the medication that makes your contraction stronger, and even with that, they allowed her to walk to the bathroom. Was her water broken? Yes, her water was broken. They let her walk. She walked her whole labor in the hospital. She walk. She started pushing on the toilet. They let her push on the toilet, which is completely unheard of. The doctor wanted to check her. The doctor got on her knees on the bathroom floor
Oh my gosh.
to do a vaginal exam. I was like, what? Oh my God, I have never heard of a doctor getting on their knees on the floor, right? They usually be like, you need to come to the bed for me to check you, right? Yeah. So it was just so amazing that she had this really nice team in the hospital. And, she ended up having her baby vaginally and I don't know, squatting. I can't remember. She told me I can't remember.
A lot of hospitals in New York are.
But you see, here's the thing. This
This
is a hospital. This is Metropolitan Hospital, for example, which I've transferred other times, but we haven't always gotten that kind of doctor that will get on the floor to do a vaginal exam. So
This is a surprising story.
this is a surprising story, right? So
Usually they won't be.
I mean, Metropolitan is usually very supportive, and they'll try their best, but they don't always get on the floor to do a vaginal exam. They'll be like, come to the bed, or no, you cannot be walking because your water is broken. So you have to be in the bed. You can move, but in your bed, right? Like just things like that. So again, depends on who the nurse is, all those things, right? Sure. All right. So, okay. So yeah, just to finish with the birth. So you get your doula. Your doula comes to support you, and usually, I mean, if you're having a home birth, your midwife is gonna come when things are really starting to get more intense. So now the contractions are definitely coming every 5 minutes, and then now the contractions start to come every 2 to 3 minutes. This is what we call transition, right?
How do you know when to like tell your midwife come?
It's usually I have a whole conversation with my not my kids, my clients. I have a whole with my kids too, but I have a whole conversation with them. Again, this is what the prenatals are for. We talk about this is when you're gonna call me when your contractions are like this. But I'm also on the phone with them every so often, right? And I listen to them. I don't need to do a vaginal exam most of the time. I hear them on the phone, and they're like, "Oh," I'm like, "Okay, I'm coming." Right, like so I can tell there's definitely signs, sounds you get used to. I personally get used to those noises. I'm like, okay, right? Sometimes in a hospital they check you. They're like, oh, you're 10, you need to start pushing now, and it's like, yeah, but I'm not feeling it yet, right? Because that sensation is going to come eventually, right? So when I hear you going like, I'm like, okay, yeah, there's a baby that is going to come. So yeah, so transition just gets very overwhelming because the contractions are coming very close to each other. And then you feel the sensation as if you were going to poop. Like, sorry, having a baby feels like you're going to poop your baby, right? Does everybody feel that? Yeah. So and that's exactly how it feels. My own experience was like, oh my God, I know my baby's coming out through my vagina, but I'm just having all these mixed feelings right now, right? Because it totally feels on my rectum. But eventually you start to feel in your vagina, you feel a stretch in your vagina. This is what we call the ring of fire, because it starts to stretch. You feel like, oh my God, everything is going to tear there, but nothing is tearing, but it feels like it. Not everybody feels the ring of fire actually, but so once
And if you have an epidural,
if you have an epidural, you
That's a whole other thing.
yeah, that's a whole, you see, we can be here all night talking about this. Yes. So then you start to see this much of the head and this much and this much and this much, the opening, it opens until, you know, we see the head. And then, you know, then the head comes out. You know, you're gonna be pushing. So this is something that your body does.
I was told by my midwife that I don't have to push, and it was true. I didn't feel like I was pushing.
Everybody,
Baby was like pushing.
everybody has a different sensation. So some people are gonna feel like they really push. There's people that just go and the baby is coming, right? Everybody has a different experience at that point. Some babies are very small, so they slide out. Was this your first baby? Great, lucky you. Yeah, yeah. Everybody has a very different experience. Most people do feel the rectal pressure. Did you feel the rectal pressure, like if you needed to poop? Yes, yeah. But then the rest, you don't feel like you had to, that you were pushing.
I didn't feel like I was pushing.
Yeah, yeah. So there's times where people don't have to have like a big effort to push. in the next maybe 30 minutes, an hour sometimes. And it's not right after. Some people do it after. No, most people take at least 15 minutes. In the hospital is different. The hospital, they do it right away because as soon as the baby's born, they give you Pitocin, which is the medication that will make your uterus contract, and then the placenta comes out faster. At home, I don't routinely give people Pitocin. So we just, again, physiologically wait for the placenta to detach. And there's no bones on the placenta. So, you feel like, okay, I'm having a contraction. So I just normally do a little bit of traction from the cord, and then the placenta comes out and you push. It's not like a big push or whatever.
What do you say about carpet? Like I personally know my cousin.
Oh, car births.
Okay, wait, that's a whole other
Yeah.
ballgame.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Normally the placenta comes out before I cut the cord.
So it's like something here with the cord and holding it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
How the pictures look.
Yeah, it should be not a big deal.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I see those pictures all the time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the mom is walking with the baby to her bed and somebody's carrying the placenta behind. Yeah.
Labs.
Yeah.
Also, like another it's not just like education, but also mental exercise.
Yes.
Like babies.
In the birthing.
For me, it's like
Yeah. I see that it helps people a lot. It's very helpful.
I think that really was like that is really the work. And for birth is mental. A lot of mental work.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. And I think part of this is why I was saying we need to change the culture that, birth is painful and all that. And probably I was missing on mentioning that part, which is just mentally ways to prepare. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Hypnosis. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. No, thanks for saying that.
There's this quote, I don't know where it's from. It goes around all the time. We have a secret in our culture, and it's not that birth is painful, it is that women are strong.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of
Sure.
fear. Like a lot of times.
Yeah. Correct. Is the triangle or a circle? Fear, tension, pain, right? So the more you fear, the more tense you're gonna be, therefore you're gonna feel more pain. Yeah. And then it just creates a vicious circle. Correct.
Can you tell we
All
love
right.
this topic?
I have a
We're
family
so
to see.
grateful for you. Yes, we're so just feel that we're so grateful for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
We
I
wanted
take this off?
to offer you a thank you. I know you're always busy with your births and doing wonderful things in the community. So we wanted to offer you a thank you gift.
Oh,
This is a
thank
phone
you.
charger, like a
Oh my God.
battery. So he says that you charged up with Living Chassidus.
Oh,
So thank you so
my God,
much
thank
for
you.
charging up
This
with
is
us.
so great.
Helping us charge.
Thank you so
on behalf of all
much.
of us. And if you don't mind, we love taking photos with our speakers. Are you okay with taking
Yeah,
a picture with us?
totally,
Yay,
totally.
thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna turn this one off.
All right, I can take this mic off.